Okay, till date we learned so how to install operating system, so how to run commands at terminal. Okay, so how shell works and how to create files, how to make directories, how to copy, how to delete. Okay, and sorting, reading, editing, like as per requirement. So how to compress files, extracting, splitting. Right, now we'll see how to create user accounts and group accounts, how to manage users and groups in Linux. So here we have a commands like user add and add user. Using add user or user add, we can create user accounts. User account creating, we can create. First we'll see how to create, then we'll see how to modify. Okay, so basic syntax like this: user add options and username. Same syntax for add user also. You can use user add or add user. So here we have various options. So using those options, we can create user account as per our requirement with some specific settings. We will see those options later. First we will see, once you run user add command with username without specifying any options, one user account will be created. Like when you run user add space username test. If you want to create a test user account, you can just run this. Once you run this, automatically test user account will be created. So during this process, your user add command modifies some config files. It creates some directory. It copies some files from somewhere to the directory, and one mail spool will be created. There are a lot of changes, right? See, user add command works based on the configuration files /etc default user add. So we have a configuration file /etc/login.defs. These two files. See, the first file user add /etc/default/user add, the configuration file. It contains the default shell and the default user home directory and mail spool directory need to be created or not. There are some settings in that. So based on that user add command, one default shell will be allocated and user home directory will be created somewhere, and UIDs and JIDs will be allocated. Okay, so here every user account and group account is identified by one unique number called user ID and group ID. User identification number, group identification number. Okay, so we have a user table and group table. So I have values 0 to 60,000 UIDs and GIDs also 0 to 60,000. 0 to 60,000 UIDs, 0 to 60,000 GIDs. When you run user add username, one number will be selected from this randomly. One number will be selected for user account. When you create a group account, one group ID will be selected. Right? Fine. See, when you run user add username, it modifies files like /etc/password. Yes. No. Yes. See, it modifies /etc/password, /etc/shadow, /etc/group, /etc/gshadow files. G shadow. Okay, see, password file, it contains user information. Shadow file, it contains password information, user account, password, age settings. Group file, it contains all group information. When you create a group account information will be stored under /group. G shadow, it contains group password information and its group admin information. Group password and group admin information. Right. These 4 files will be modified. Then it creates one home directory under /home. Okay. At very first class in file system architecture, we learn, right, about each and every directory. Okay. So we have a tree-like structure. Top of the hierarchy, / or root file system denotes with / user information. I'll explain once again. I'll give you information, right? Just understand. See, home directory, it contains user information. User information in the sense user home directories. When you create a user account, one directory will be created with same username. Okay, like test. For example, test, right? User home directory will be created and then permissions will be applied. Permissions will be applied, comma, ownership and group ownership will be set. Okay, once user home directory created, its permissions as well as ownership and group ownership will be updated. Okay, then one mail spool directory will be created /var/spool/mail. One mail spool will be created under this directory. So mail spool in this is an inbox. So whenever a user received messages from other user accounts or some other services related, okay, those messages will be stored under this inbox. So here under mail directory, one file will be created with username like test. Okay, this is user mail inbox directory. Got it? So it modifies those 4 files and it creates one user home directory. Then it creates one mail spool under /var/spool/mail directory with username. So then, but at the same time, it allocates some default shell environment. Default shell, like the default shell is here. We have bin/bash. User will get one default shell environment. When you log in as a root, this shell environment will be loaded. Shell acts like an interpreter between you and operating system. Okay, so we can't directly communicate with kernel. So for that required interpreter, shell acts like that. Here we have various shell types, but the default shell environment is bash. Right? Fine. We'll see now. Mail inbox. Yes. Right? User add username test. Created. So how to check this? This information will be updated to password file. Password file, it contains user information. So not only we created every user information, system created user accounts, user created user accounts. So it contains information like username, password, UID, GID, additional information about user and user home directory path and default shell name. File it contains. Let me check. So we have a head and tail commands, right? Using tail, we can read last n number of lines. When you create a user account, the information will be updated to the same file, tail -2. I'm going to read last 2 lines. /etc/password. See what it shows here? Test. User account created, right? Test. And this is password field. X it shows. So basically, actual passwords not stored here. Passwords will be stored under shadow file. Okay, in encrypted format, not in plain text format. So this is pointed to shadow file, and this one is UID. This is GIDs, and here there is no additional information about user. We can add. This is this field, and this is user home directory path, and this is default login shell name. Default login shell name. Like when you create n number of user account, the same information will be updated like this, right? See, we created user account but selected the random number from 1000, right? 1001 GIDs. Here we have a 0 to 60,000. In this 0 to 999 is reserved for system user accounts. System user accounts. So when you create a user account, for that user accounts, one number will be selected from 1000 to 60,000 randomly. Like GIDs also. UIDs and GIDs. So up to here reserved. So the values 0 to 999 in 7, 0 to 999 in 7, the numbers will be reserved for system user accounts. In RHEL 6, the values 0 to 499. GIDs 0 to 499. UIDs reserved for system user accounts and group user accounts. So in RHEL 7, 0 to 999. UIDs 0 to 999. GIDs reserved for system user accounts and group accounts. In 6, the values. Okay, from 500 onwards, UIDs and GIDs will be selected when you create a user account and group account. In 6, in 5 also same structure, 0 to 499. Okay, fine. That's why here selected a number randomly 1000 Right, create another user account, test 1. Let me run. Same thing, right? 1002 UID and GID. Okay, now we'll see shadow file. Shadow file contains these fields. So these are all user and user password age settings. Password age settings. First field is username. Second field is password. Just we are not created any password. Once you create a password, that information will be stored here in this field, second field, in encrypted format. And this one is since 1970 January, the days, password modified days, last password modified days. When you count the value since 1970 January, you'll get number of days, right? Total days it shows. Okay, and this one is minimum number of days goes to change user password, and this one is maximum number of days, minimum and maximum number of days. These are default settings, right? But that means password will be never expire. Password never expire. So we can set password expiry date. So 5 days, 10 days, 1 week, 2 weeks, or 1 month. So when you set a password expiry days, user need to change his password before that days. If not modified, password will be expired. When user trying to log in, will prompt for forcefully to change password. It will enforce. Okay. Then this one is password warning age. Password warning is days. So before going to password expire, user will get some warning messages. Your password will be expired in 7 days. 6 days, 4 days, 5 days, something like. Okay, so warning days, the default value. And in these lost fields, password inactivity days, when you create a password inactive or account inactive, that information will be updated. And we can also create user account with expiry date. Once you created user account with expiry date, that information will be updated in last field, right? So shadow file, it contains username, user password, and its password and account age settings. Okay, and now we'll see group. Test 1. So what is test and test 1? User accounts. But here group file, it contains group names. When you create a user account with user add command, by default one group account will be created with same username. We created test user account. One test user account will be created, one group account will be created, both with same name. So that's why it shows group name also test. And this is password field, which is pointed to GShadow. Okay, group passwords will be stored under GShadow file, and this is GID. And the last field is group members information. Group members, just we created group. When you added users into this group, that names it shows in the last field here. Okay, group members, the same thing, test 1 group and its password and GID, and is there any users in that group members, that information it shows, group members names, right? And GShadow, group password, group name, group password, and the third field is group admin name, group admin field. We can add user as admin for one group. Okay, so when you add a user as admin for one group, that name will be stored under third field in GShadow file. And the last field is as usual, group members information, group members names, username, password, group admin, and group members. These are all the fields contains GShadow file. Okay, so these 4 files will be modified, updated with new information, right? Okay, we'll see the script files. /etc default, sorry, not defaults, default. Yeah, see, user add default files, group 100, home directory, specified /home, right? When you create a user account home directory will be created under /home. So if you want to modify default home directory for all user accounts, instead of home, we can specify any other directory. Then when you create a user accounts, that user accounts home directories will be created under the directory. Okay. No. So still the user accounts information available at home only. We can't move that. Okay. Fine. See, inactivity days, user account never, -1, and expiry never, and the default shell. When you create a user account, default login shell is allocated bin/bash. Instead of bin/bash, if you want to use C shell or K shell, there are different shells are available. We can specify that path. If you specify path, when you create a user account, every user will get the same shell environment as default one, right? And shell directory. So we have a shell directory /etc/shell. Once user home directory created, some default shell environment shell files will be copied from shell directory to user home directory. Okay, so the files are like .bash rc, .bash_profile, .bash_logout. Okay, so during that login, your shell process will read those files. So these are all user environmental. user environment files. Okay, see here specified create mail spool. Yes, based on this command will create user account under /home directory, and then a shell will be allotted like bash as a default one, and shell files will be copied. You'll see that shell files now. Sorry. Change directory to /etc/shell ls. It contains no files, right? But these files are hidden files. .bash underscore logout, .bash underscore profile, .bash rc. These files will be copied from shell directory to user home directory. Okay, so basic environment for every user account. So we have to provide some environment, right, to work on something. So when you hire as a administrator, so the organization need to provide some environment to work on servers. So that means they'll allot one machine to you, right, or a laptop or a desktop. Like here also, when you create a user account, so if you want to log in as that user account, once you log in as user account, you want to perform some action, so required an interpreter. User can't directly communicate with your operating system. Your shell will provide. Okay, so when you log in as user account, the shell process will read these files. Whatever the environment we defined, the same environment will be loaded. Same environment will be loaded. By default, every user will get the same environment. As per requirement, we can customize the environment. We can create paths. We can create our defined variables. We can create aliases. So already we learned, right, alias command. Like we can define so any environment. Then that environment will available for only that user account. So if you want to set the same environment for all user accounts, we have a global profile files /etc/profile /etc/bash rc. Okay, so into that we have to update. Once you update it into that, every user account will get the same environment, right? See, change directory to home, whether directory is created or not with username. Yes, we have, right, test and test1. These two user accounts we created. These two are test user account home directory and test1 user account home directories. Okay, so change directory to test user account home directory. Run ls. It contains nothing. ls-a. Same files are copied, right? Yes, same files copied from shell to here, and then change test1 ls-a. It contains same, right, same environment. Like files will be copied, and then once user account home directory created, permissions will be applied like this, and ownership and group ownership will be modified like this. So when you create a directory or a file, login as root. Who is owner for those files and directories? Root. Who is group owner? Root user, primary group. But here root user created, executed command user add. User add command modified all the settings, right? So automatically it will apply permissions as well as ownership and group ownership. Here we have a permission access modes like read, write, execute. Read access, write access, and execute access. Okay, so these permissions we can apply on three types of user account users: owner of file, group, and others. So we have owner in the sense who created a file, that means file owned by user, and group, the file belongs to or a directory belongs to some group. We have a group accounts, right? Okay, we can set permissions on user, we can set permissions on group, and the users not belongs to group, not a owner. Those users are called other user accounts. Other user accounts, not a member in that group, not a owner of the file. Those users are called others. We can allow group users to read write, we can allow others read write, or else we can restrict to access files. Okay, we'll see that in file permissions, how to set permissions for user, group, others. The same thing here applied. Only user is having full access. Which user? Test user. The remaining group and others, there is no access. The default permissions on user home directory is 700. 700. Okay. See, basically read equals to 4, W equals to 2, execute equals to 1. When you calculate this value, 4 plus 2 plus 1, 7. Okay. Just understand. So we have a concept. I'll explain once again. So like permissions will be applied and ownership and group ownership will be changed to user home directory. Now we'll see the configuration file. We have another configuration file, right? vi/etc/login.devs. So based on this configuration file, no highlight, NOH, right? See, based on this configuration file, mail spool will be created under /var/pool/mail directory. See, so parameter, the default mail spool directory for every user account specified path, right? Var spool mail. Instead of this, we can specify another directory path also. Then when you, after modifying this, when you create a user account, that user account mail spool will be created, whatever the path you specified here. See, password minimum number of days, maximum number of days, password minimum length, password warning age, the default values it contains, right? So based on this, the default values will be applied. So maximum number of days 99999, minimum number of days. It means password never expire, and password minimum length 5 characters, but recommended 8 characters. We can customize this. If you want to set minimum characters 8 instead of 5, specify 8, right? Password warning age also. So before going to expect password, so if you want to print some warning message, so from since some few days, I mean 10 days or 5 days or 15 days before, we can modify, but the default value is 7. UIDs and GIDs, see, minimum or maximum values for automatic UID selection in user ad. UID minimum 1000, maximum 60,000. So when you create a user account, from this range, randomly one number will be selected, UID number. The same thing. So GIDs also, minimum, maximum. See, create home directory. Here specified create home directory. If you specify no here, it won't create any user home directory. Just it creates one user account. Without user home directory, user account will be created, right? Then here we have a value umask 077. Based on this umask value, permissions will be applied on user home directory. So user got 700 permissions, right? Read, write, execute, hyphen something. Based on this, what is umask? What is this values? We'll see in file permissions. And once you created a password, password will be encrypted with this method, SHA-512 method. So we have another method also, MD5 crypt password, but the default encryption method is SHA-512. So user ad and login.devs, these two files are responsible for to create user accounts and to allocate default shell and selecting UIDs and GIDs from some range. Got it? Fine. Now we'll see mail spool also. slash where school mail created with username on file test and test1. If test user received any mails from system or any services or from internal user accounts, those messages will be stored under mail spool. Mail spool, right? So if you want to access this mail spool directory from outside, you have to configure a email server. Email server. Right? So this is user add command. This is a behind process. When you run user add, some files will be modified, home directories and files will be copied to that, permissions will be set, ownership will be set. Okay. Fine. Now we'll see options. Options in user add. So -D. -D, change home directory. Change home directory. -U, change UID. Change UID in the sense we can create a user with specific UID. If not specified any UID at syntax, automatically one number will be selected from that range 1000 to 60,000. We can specify a specific UID number. We can create a user with specific UID by using -U option. -G, change user primary group. Change user primary group. See, when you create a user account, along with username, one group account will be created, right, with same name. There is user primary group. User primary group. So instead of using that, we can specify existing group as a primary group. -G, existing group name. We have to specify. Existing group name. Then whatever the group name you specified here, that group acts as a primary group. G, adding user into supplementary groups along with primary group. Adding user into supplementary groups. Supplementary groups along with primary. So when you use small g, it won't create any primary group. So whatever the group name you specified, that group acts as a primary group. When you use G, one primary group will be created with same username. At the same time, whatever the group names you specified here, like G1 example, G2 like G3, user will be added into these groups as a member. G1, G2, G3 groups. We can add user into supplementary groups. -S, change login shell. Change login shell. The default login shell is bin/bash. So we can create a user with different shell as a default login shell. Bin/bash. Default shell is bin/ for every user accounts. Okay. See, we can create a user with specific shell as a default shell. -S. -C. Add additional information or comments. Add or update additional information like full name, designation or address, phone numbers. We can store regarding the user information. hyphen E, account expiry, create user account expiry, hyphen E. So the date and time format we have to specify year, month, date, year, month, date, user account expiry. If you want to create a user account with expiry date, we can create. Password expiry days. Here we have to specify days, number of days, 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 days. Hyphen E, hyphen F. Hyphen E, user account expiry, hyphen F, password expiry. We'll see practically all this. So then hyphen O, create user with duplicate UID. Create user with duplicate UID. Duplicate UID in the sense existing UID. Existing UID. We can create it with user, but both users are having same inode number, right? Same UID. If both those users are having same UID, both users will get the same permissions. Okay. See, when you want to create a user with duplicate UID, hyphen O option along with that hyphen U we have to use. Hyphen O, hyphen U, then duplicate existing UID. Existing or in use UID. We have to specify if you want to create a user with, but it is not recommended. We have an option hyphen R to create system user accounts. To create system user account.
Duplicate IDs create already exist
Same. That is what I am saying. See, both users are having the same UID, same permissions users will get. Right. See, hyphen R option, system account, system user account. See, when you create a system user account, UID will be selected below 1000. Below 1000, randomly one number will be selected. See, basically, system user accounts are nothing but we are not creating those user accounts. So, operating system itself, some user accounts will be created, and while configuring the services like web server, mail server, FTP, DNS, or some other services. See, the process need to run with some privileges, right, under operating system. For every process, there is a specific user account. Then the process will run with that specified user information, whatever the permissions are there. For that, by default, one user account will be created. When you install a process related package, automatically one user account will be created, and one group account will be created, and one home directory will be created. Okay, so those processes, user accounts and group accounts, numbers are allotted, some 0 to 999. From that range, numbers will be selected. Here also, if you want to create a system user account, that means if you want to use UID less than 1000, we can hyphen R option, user add hyphen R username, right? See, user add hyphen R test2. Let me check the what is UID and JID? 995. GID 993. Selected randomly one number less than 1000. If not specified hyphen or above 1000, randomly one number will be selected. Pardon? Yeah, user and number will be selected above 1000. Right? We'll see now. If you want to change user home directory, first make directory, then we'll see users. So I want to change a specific user home directory as users. Instead of modifying the default settings in script files, okay, here I'm going to use users directory as a default home directory for my new user accounts. User at -d. Using D option, we can change user home directory, right? Users. Then username test3. Okay. Fine. Okay, here it is showing some warning message. The home directory already exists. Not copying any files from SQL directory into it. So basically, when you modify user home directory, sometimes SQL files won't be copied. So if that files won't copied, we have to copy manually. We have a cp command. Using cp command, we can copy SQL file from SQL directory to new user home directory. So let me check whether user account created or not. Yes, user account created. Test3 UIDs, GID, and what it shows here, /users. What is /users here? User home directory. Which user? Test3. Test3 user home directory. Change directly to that /users. Nothing it contains. Run ls-a. No, not copied, right? Now we'll see how to copy. So we have a SQL directory /etc/SQL. Okay, so .bash underscore logo, .bash underscore profile, .bash rc. Just copy this. Currently we are at SQL directory -r .bash asterisk to /users. This is a home directory, right? Copied /users. Copied. Like we have to copy manually. If SQL file is not copied to user home directory, right? If you want to copy files while executing user add command, along with the, we can use option -m. Once you use -m option, okay, it copies existing home directory files to new home directory. Existing home directory files to new home directory, along with the use m. Right, automatically files will be copied from SQL to here. So no need to copy manually. Yeah, existing home directory to new home directory. But m option we have to use with D. With this combination only, user account home directory will be created. Files will be copied from existing home directory to new home directory. So this is how to change home directory for new user accounts while creating, right? And now we'll see how to add additional information for new user while creating -c, right? We have Linux admin -s. I can change default shell as something bin/bash. Instead of that, I can use sh. There is the sh. Then -e account expiry date. We can create a user account with expiry date. '01. Then password expiry, if you want, specify 3 days. Password expiry 3 days. If you want to add user into supplementary groups, we can. If you want to change user primary group, -g. So here we have to specify existing group name. Already we created test user, test1, test2, test3. Along with these user accounts, group accounts also created. Now specify a test group. Okay. Then if you want to add this new user into supplementary groups, we can. Here I'm going to specify test1, comma, test2, comma, test3. Test group now acts as a primary group, and then whatever the username you specified, that user will be added into these supplementary groups as a member. Then specify username Apple. User account name is Apple. Sorry, what will happen? Is there anything we specified wrong? -c. Okay, fine. So that is the problem. Okay, successfully user account created. So we specified additional information about user, right? Designation. We have to specify the text in double quotes. So otherwise it takes both are arguments. See now, tail -5/etc password. Last file we read it. Apple user account created. So UID, what it shows? 1004. 1004 by default selected, but GID 1001. What is GID 1001? Test group. Existing test group. So now test group as a primary group for test user as well as Apple user. Both are having same group as a primary group. Okay. When you log in as test user, when you log in as Apple user, if you created files, by default those files will be added into this group, test group, right? And we added designation Linux admin, and by default user home directory created, and login shell also modified, right? Modified or not? Yes. User created with specified shell as a login shell, specific group as a primary group. Now we'll see users added into groups or not. Okay, just read tail -5. We have a group file, right? See, test1, test2, test3, 3 groups we have. In that groups, Apple user added as a member. Added or not? So group file contains group name, group password, and GID and sub members in that group. So in test group, there is no members. Test1 group, Apple as a member. Test2, Apple as a member. Test3, Apple as a member. Like we can add user into supplementary groups while creating. And read the shadow file. What it shows now? 3. What is 3? Password expiry in 3 days. What is this? Account expiry since 1970 January. Okay, password. Your account will be expired. It calculates the days. Okay, not it shows in calendar format. Okay, when you calculate days from that January 1970 to till, we'll get the value. This many numbers. Okay, the same thing we can see with change command. We have a change command. We can see that password age settings, user account, password age settings, -L, Apple. What it shows now? Last password changed. The same information it shows here. Last password changed. Okay, this one in days, but here it shows in calendar format. January 27, 2018. Password expires never. Okay, the same thing. Password expires, change inactivity days never, and minimum number of days, maximum number of days here specified. Account expiry date. This is what we specified, right, in syntax. While creating user account, we specified same thing, right? Here, same thing it shows here. Account expiry. Okay, so using change, we can remove password expiry, account expiry. We can modify. So we'll see that later. I'll tell you what change command. Okay, like we can create a user account with specific requirement. For that, you can use these options. We have different options, right? This is how to create user accounts by using these options. Got it? Without options, automatically user account will be created. As per requirement, if you want to create, you can modify those settings. Fine. Now we'll see how to modify existing users. Up to here we created user accounts with user add command. Now we'll see how to modify. We have a user mod command. User mod. Using user mod, we can modify existing users. User mod, options, existing username. Okay, same options here we can use. Whatever the options we used in user add command, same options. With same options, we can modify user UID, user GID, that means primary group. We can add existing user into supplementary groups by using capital G option. We can change existing user default shell by using S option. -D, we can change user home directory. Right? All options we can use. We can modify account expiry date using -E option. We can set password expiry for existing users using -F option. Right? Fine. So along with these options, we have options like to lock user account. If you want to lock user account, we have an option -L in user mode. Use the above options in user add also. Along with that, we have different options here. To lock user account, L. To unlock, -U. To lock and unlock. -L to rename, to change login name, -L. Existing name, new name you have to specify. We'll see now. So how to modify. We'll see now how to modify. So we have a test user, test 1, test 2, test 3, and Apple. So if you want to change login name, we can change. So how to change? User mod -L Apple orange. Sorry. New name we have new name and old name, existing name. Login name modified. The same information will be updated to password file. Change it or not? Orange. To change login name or to rename username. User mode space -L new name space existing name. Right. To lock user account, we have an option -L, right? Using capital L, we can lock user account. Using capital U, we can unlock. -L username, which user account you want to lock. If you want to unlock, user mod -U username. Okay. So this is user mod command. So how to modify? The same thing, we can use -S if you want to change user login shell. See, orange user login shell is sh, right? If you want to modify login shell as bash -s/bin/bash, then username. Sorry, user add is specified. User mode, right? I'm sorry, user mode. Now user modified. Now check. Change it or not? So before it's the shell is sh. Now bash. Like home directory, we can a shell name change it. It's an interpreter. See, interpreter. So when you run a command, here we are executing some commands, right? So shell takes that request and it processes to kernel. So kernel then it will search for the related function. Is there any functions related to that instruction? So then it will run that and we'll get a desired output. If there is no function related to that, so we'll get a message like no such file or directory or command not found. The skeleton, the basic default structure, default environment, right? Like we can modify user accounts. So how to create user accounts, how to modify. So we have a user add to create, user mod to modify. Now we'll see how to set password for user accounts, how to set and reset. We have a password command. Using password command, we can set password and we can reset password. Password username. Without specifying any username, when you run password command, by default it is trying to modify root user password. Admin, root user, right? So changing password for user root. So new password, and again we have to retype the password. If you want to change or if you want to set password for a new user account or existing user account, password username orange. Changing password for user orange. New password. Enter. So minimum 8 characters recommended. Minimum 8 characters recommended. So it should be include one special character, uppercase and numerics. Okay, don't use dictionary words, and your names, operating system name like Red Hat, CentOS, and application names, host names, right? So here I'm entered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's why it shows the password phase, the dictionary check. It is based on a dictionary word. It is based on a dictionary word. We have to create complex. Yeah, we have a combination of alphabets, numerics, and special characters. We have to create password. So don't enter password like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, ABCD something. Okay. For practice purpose, home purpose, okay, fine. But in the server environment, if you set password like this, your server will compromise. Once it compromises, okay, so data will be corrupted by some others, right? See, password successfully created. Once you create a password, password information will be stored under shadow file in encrypted format, not in plain text format. See, let me check that. /etc shadow. See, this is a password. We created password, the same values here encrypted and stored under second field in the shadow file. Username, user password in encrypted, and this is the remaining values. Right. Now, if you want to log in as Orange, now we have a password also, right? Username and password. Now we can able to authenticate. See. So you have a 6 consoles along with run levels. We can switch from one console to another console if you have a physical access. So we can log in as same user account or different user accounts. Now run Orange, username, enter password. Okay, your account has expired. Why you chose? Okay, fine. So create password for another user account or remove that account expiry. We'll see that. So we have a test user, right? So set password for that. PASSWD test. Right. Now log in as test. So here accessor from PuTTY is a direct terminal. Don't get confused. Okay. I'm taking remote access via PuTTY. So this is direct terminal. So test. Login, right? See.
This is also for file.
Which one?
This test is a file, right?
No, user. Yeah. User account.
For file we are creating in VIA.
Which one?
In VIA made we encrypt the file, right?
So that is setting password for a particular file to protect. Okay. So here to log in, authenticate, required user account and password. Okay. See, once you log in as, it shows username and host name, the same thing. $, it specifies normal user login. Normal user login. So user can change his own password. User can't modify or reset other user accounts passwords.
Here only we can change the other command.
Yeah, we can. Yes, CHVT 2, 3. We can change. We can change from any user account. We can switch from one console to another console. but user can change his own password, not other user's password. See, PASSWD. When you run, what it shows? When you log in as test, if you run password command without specifying any username, automatically it shows the user password. First we have to enter current user password, then we have to set the new password. So when you're trying to change another user, for example, test1, what it says, only root can specify a username. User can't modify. Right? So this is how to set password, how to log in as user. Right? Now log the user account. What will happen? We'll see. Just log the user account, user mod -L test. Once you log the user account, one bang symbol will be added as a preceding character for your password. Right? See, go to shadow file. Sorry, where it is? File. See here, added bang symbol. That means password in account in lock state, user account in lock state. Remove that, unlock. So instead of using tail, also we can grep, right? Using grep username. It shows related file fields or not. Unlocked. Remove that. Bang. Got it? See, log the user account, try to log in. Come to here and log in as test. It shows login incorrect. Login incorrect because account in lock state. User account in lock state. Here we locked, right? Right now, account in lock state. Added or not? Now unlock. I can try to log in. See, by default it prints some warning message and the login failed information. Previous login. There was one failed login attempt since last successful login. Okay, information it shows. This is how to lock user account, how to unlock. See, when you create a user with different directory as a home directory, if scale file is not copied, what will happen? We'll see when you log in as user account. Create a user with different directory as a home directory. Just data. Okay, then use user add -d/data new user. Scale file is not copied, right? Okay, now set password for new user. PASSWD new user. Successful. Now login as new user. What it shows? bash -4.2 something. Environment not loaded. Once environment loaded, it prints username and user at which host, user at current working directory in the file system, and login type and some other environment will be loaded. Here by default not copied scale files. Now copy scale files to here. So how to copy? From here we can copy. Here login, right? Just go to their scale directory /etc/scale. Currently we are at /etc/scale. Right. Now ls-a, if you want to see that, it shows same thing, right? .bash_profile logout bash rc. Copy this user home directory. So data cp-rv/etc scale absolute path we can use, right? .bash asterisk then dot. What is dot? Current working directory. Don't get confused. Okay, in regular expression there is a special meaning for dot, but here in command prompt, see, I mean shell prompt, when you use dot, what it means? It represents current working directory. If you specified current working directory, what it means? Now files will be copied from scale to current working directory. What is current working directory? New user home directory data. Run. Okay. See, let me check ls-a. Why? It shows permissions denied, something, right? We created user with specific directory as a home directory, but we are not modified any ownership and group ownership. Who is owner for the directory? Root. That's why it shows the error message. We'll see how to modify user ownership, I mean file ownership and group ownership later. Okay, so if you want to copy, just copy files from login as root. That's it. cp root user can copy anything from anywhere. /etc scale2 .bash asterisk to /data directory. /data is a new user's home directory. Now log off and log in here. To load that new environment, we have to re-log in. New user. Now we got right. Okay, environment loaded. Right. Fine. See, using password command, we can set new password or reset. See, here also we have options -l to lock password, to unlock password -u, to delete password -d, to delete password -d. Using -l we can lock password passwd. Okay, -u to unlock password, -d to delete password. See, here we have a user accounts and created with some password, right? We have an orange user. If you want to delete orange user password, we can delete passwd -d orange. Removing password for user orange. Success. Remove. See, grep orange /etc/shadow. Is there any password here? The second field? No. Successfully removed or not? To set password, passwd orange right? Let me check that. Again, updated same password, right? To lock, passwd -l username. To lock password. Locking password for user orange. Small l. Small l. No, capital small u. See, it shows two bank symbols. If it shows two bank symbols, password locked. If it shows only one bank symbol, account, user account locked, lock state, right? To unlock, -u, passwd -u. Unlocking password for user orange. Password success, right? So this is how to create user accounts, modify, and how to set and reset, how to lock and unlock. So we'll see now how to create groups, how to create group accounts. So we have a group add. See, we have a group add command to create groups. Group add, options, group name. Group add, options, group name. Right. Just run group add command. Group add, group name. Here I'm going to create a group name called G1. Group 1 created. Group 1 created. So if you want to see that information, just read group file. Using tail, I'm going to read last n number of lines from that file. Now tail reads 5 lines from group. G1 group created, yes, and one random number selected. If you want to create a group with specific GID, -G, -G option, then specify a group ID, specify group name, new group name. Created or not? Instead of selecting 1007, here created a group G2 with specific GID. Using -u option in user add, we can create user with specific UID. Here, using group add command, -G option, we can create a group with specific GID. Right? Like we can create groups. Same information will be stored under group and G shadow. If you want to see that information in G shadow, see G1 group, G2 group. Password not created yet, right? There is no admin for this group. There is no members in this group. There is no members in this group. Right. To modify groups, existing group, we have a group mod. That means if you want to change GID, group mod -G 1007 for group name G2. The existing group ID for G2 is 1111. Here I am going to modify GID as 1007. Modifying. Sorry. Shadows group. Modified? Modified or not? Yes. Modified successfully. Like, so if you want to change group name to rename, we can modify. -n option we have group mod -n. So group name G2, right? Here I'm going to specify group name like blue and G2. New group name, existing group name. Check now. Again change. That means we can rename existing group. We can rename by using -n option with group mode. Simple. So how to create groups using group add and how to modify using group mode. Now how to set password for a group. We have a gpassword command. Using gpassword command we can set group mode right, gpasswd gpassword. Using this gpassword command we can set or reset password for a group. To set password for gpasswd, group name blue. Once you enter, you'll ask enter password. Okay. If you want to modify password, we can modify. Same gpassword. Here we have a different options with gpassword. Using gpassword, so not only we can set the password and reset password, we can add a user into multiple groups. We can add multiple users into one group. We can add user as admin for one group. We can delete user from existing group. That means we can remove from that. But user mode command, we can't remove users from existing group. We can't remove. So we can't assign a user as admin for one group with the help of user mode. Okay, with gpassword we can do that. And even though we can add only one user into multiple groups using user add command or user mode, but we can't add multiple users into one group. But with the help of gpassword we can add multiple users into one group. You see now, -a add user into multiple groups. -a username, then group names. This is the syntax. gpassword -a username, then group names. So which user you want to be add into which groups, that means we have to specify separated by commas. Right. So we have a test user, add test user into blue group. Adding user test to group blue. Added, yes, successfully added. Right. So if you want to remove user test from blue group, yes, delete user from group, not from system. We are removing from group. So removing user test from group blue. Right. To add multiple users into one group, for that we have a capital M option. Capital M usernames test, test1, test2. Example, like a number of usernames we can specify. then specify a group name. Yes, one group. Okay, how to test whether users added into blue group or not? So we have to read G shadow file or group file, right? Instead of that, so we have a commands. We can see user into which groups. We can see members in group. I have two commands. So we'll see group mems. Group mems. We have a command group mems. Using group mems, we can see the group members. -G group name blue space -L. Once you run this, it shows members in blue group. Right? Instead of reading G group file /etc/group file, directly we can run group mems space -G group name -L.
Or can I use grep space -G?
No. So group mems. So grep is only searching for a specified string.
So we cannot use grep.
Here. So if you want to use grep user group name, then you have to specify group file or G shadow file /etc/group. So from that you'll get result. Instead of that, directly we can see, right, members in this group. Blue. So in blue group, so test1 and test2, these three users are members. So that is what we added, right? The above syntax. We added these three users into this group. Okay, for that, here executed command group mems whether users added into blue or not. Successfully added. So if you want to see a user related groups, okay, that means user belongs to which groups, user into how many groups. We have groups, groups space username, test, for example, test user into test group and blue group. The first group, test, is a primary group. The second one, blue, is a secondary group. That means supplementary group. If you want to see user belongs to how many groups, use groups command. Groups space username. It shows user belongs to how many groups. Along with primary group, it shows supplementary groups. Using group mems command, we can see group members information. You can see group members information. Right. Now, how to add user as admin for one group. So up to here, we added one user into multiple groups with G password and added multiple users into one group, removed user from existing group. Now how to add user as admin for group. So before going to add a user as admin for that group, we have to check whether user already member in that group or not. If that user already member in that group, we can add. If the user not member in that group, we have to add user into that group first, then add user as admin for group. Right. G PSSWD -J username. Yeah, we'll see that. Now use the test into blue. Okay, so adding user. Oh, already member, right? We're not removed. Right, now add as admin G PSSWD -A to add user as admin for group. Username, which user you want to add as admin for group. Group name. How can we see this information? So we have a GShadow file, right? It contains in the third field. What it is? Third or fourth field? It contains user admin information. Okay. /etc, or we can directly run blue. /etc/GShadow. What it shows here in the third field? Test. This user is the admin for this group, and these are all members. These are all members. Test added as the admin for this group. Got it? So this is how to create users, groups, modify, how to add users into multiple groups, how to remove user from existing group, how to set password for user accounts, how to set password for group accounts. Right? Now we'll see how to remove users and groups from system. So we have a user del command to delete. User del. Using user del command, we can delete user accounts. User del options username. For to delete group accounts, group del options group name. Right? When you run user del with username example test, it removes user information from user table. That means from password file, shadow file, right? It removes. It won't remove user home directory. When you run this without options, user del username, only it removes user information from system, but not its related stuff. It won't remove any user home directory. If you want to remove along with user its home directory, then use rf option, user del -rf username. Along with user home directory will be removed. Right? See, while removing user account with user del command, so along with user, primary group also will be removed. Primary group also removed. Is there any members in that primary group? Then it won't remove. So we have a user account. Along with user account, one primary group will be created, right? When you run user del, automatically along with user, primary group will be removed if there is no members in that group. If there are some members in that group, it won't remove. Only it will remove user account. Okay, so this is how to remove. And then if you want to delete group del, group name, any group name, example blue. So even though users in that group, automatically group will be removed. Okay, like we can delete user accounts and group accounts. Fine. Okay, so this is user and group administration. So we can create a user with account expiry date. So why we have to create a user account with expiry date? Is there any specific requirement? So we can set password. So for security reason, we have to modify. We have to set password expiry date. That means we have to enforce a user to change his password before few days, something 10 days, 20 days, 30 days. We have to enforce for security reason. Why we have to create a user account with expiry date? Into create చేయాలి. Some certain conditions. See, for example, say there is a requirement like on some project someone is want to work, so the guy is at somewhere for few days, we have to give some access. So for that we have to create a temporary user account with expiry date. Even though you forget to log that user account, after that days automatically account will be expired. So if not created user account with expiry date, if you provided credentials to that guy, okay, so the guy can misuse, right? So this kind of situations we can create, okay, account with expiry date. So these settings we can modify using change command. So we have change, right? Change user settings, or it prints user password age settings. Password age settings. See, change options and username. Change options and username. So when you run change space -l with username, it shows user password age settings, user account settings. See, like since last password changed, password expiry, password inactive, account expiry, minimum number of days, maximum number of days. Okay, correct? To see the password age settings, user account settings, right? See, now when you run change -l username example test, it shows the default values like, okay, last password change, that information, password expires, that information never expire, the default value, password inactive never, and account expires never, minimum number of days between password change 0, maximum number of days between password change 99999, that means never expire. So we can set these values. If you want to set user to enforce user to change his password, minimum number of days and maximum number of days we can set. And this is the last one, is number of days of warning before password expire. User will get a warning message before it expires, since the days, whatever the days you specified. Okay, we'll see now. So would password inactive in the sense after n number of, I mean, so if you set password inactivity days 3 days or 4 days, if there is no activity since 3 days and 4 days, automatically our account goes to inactive state. If there is no activity, right? Now we'll see, we have a command options. So if you want to set account expiry, if you want to modify, we have a -E option. In user mode and user add, we have a small e option to create account expiry date, to modify. Here E, same date and time format, date format, and 0 1 2 0 2 0 2. Change password F, F, sorry. See, minimum number of days small m 5, capital M maximum number of days. Individually we can use, together we can use -M and -M. Small m minimum number of days between password change, capital M maximum number of days between password change 10. hyphen capital I to set inactivity days. Days here we have to specify hyphen capital I days 3. Now run the command. What it shows? Everything modified, right? Password will expire on Feb 6th. So here we specified maximum number of days 10. Here calculated from today to 10 days. So the day is February 6th. Okay. And minimum number of days 5 and maximum number of days 10. So user need to change his password before these days. Otherwise, automatically root enforces to change his password. By default, it prompts for change password. Once the user changes password, then only user able to authenticate. Otherwise, he can't able to authenticate the server or machine. See, if you want to modify this, we can modify. The same information will be updated to shadow file also. See, what is the username? Test, right? Test /etc/shadow. See, same thing here updated. 5 days, minimum number of days, maximum 10. This one is password expired. Sorry, inactivity days 3, and this is account expiry. Everything is updated, right? The same thing. When you run change, it shows same thing, or we can see the information into shadow file. If you want to remove, if you want to set account to never expire, if you want to set account inactive to never, if you want to set minimum and maximum number of days to never. Okay, so for that, the same command hyphen capital E -1 to set account expire to never. -1 hyphen E -1 to set account expire to never. To set password inactive to never. Capital I -1. Capital I -1. If you want to set the default value, minimum number of days 0, maximum number of days, this is the default value, right? Got it? See now, run. Set to never, right? Using that. So we can set, we can modify, we can remove password age settings using change command. So we have another option. We can enforce user to change his password upon first login. We can enforce user to change his password upon first login. Change space -d 0. -d means days, 0 days. If you specify it like this, what will happen? When you log in as test, by default it prompts for to change his password. It will enforce user need to change his password. Once user modified password, then only user can authenticate with that username. Right? So if you specified one day, after 1 day, user enforced to change his password upon first login. So why we have to create like this? For security reason. Sometimes, so there is a requirement like we have to create multiple user accounts like 20, 30, 50 user accounts. So we have to set password for all user accounts. Okay. Using user add command, we can't create multiple user accounts at a time. So we have to write some script to create user accounts. So while creating user accounts, so during that time we have to set password for all user accounts. Okay, so for that we have to set the default password for all user accounts. Right, when you set a default password for all 50 user accounts, if one user knows another user password, both are same, right? User 1, user 2, user 50, all users are having same password. Anyone can misuse, right? Login as another user account, he can do something. So for that, once you created user accounts with the default password, we have to enforce users upon first login or next login. When user trying to login as user account, by default it prompts for change password. First user need to enter existing password, then new password. Right? So if you want to see that, test. Now login as test. What is the password we specified? Let me check. I think the password is what? Password test. Now run change command. Change -d 0. Now login as test. What it shows? You are required to change your password immediately. Root enforcer. We have to enter current password. We have to enter complicated password. Hey, what will happen? Authentication token manipulation error. Okay, something went wrong, so we did something right. See, this is a process. When you set user enforcer to change his password, by default it prompts for that. We have to enter current password, then we have to enter new password. Okay, then only user able to authenticate. So this is user and group administration. Okay, so tomorrow we'll see file permissions. So up to here, if you have